Online EMDR, does it work? Well, stay tuned and I will let you know what I think. And who am I? My name is Barbara Heffernan and I am an EMDR approved consultant. And I have been working with EMDR for over a decade. I find it to be an incredibly powerful tool. And now that we are in this new stage of online therapy, I'd like to talk to you about how EMDR works in an online world. And I've been helping people recover from anxiety and trauma through my private psychotherapy practice for 2 decades. And I recently started this YouTube channel to help bring more information about living a more joyful life, recovering from anxiety, recovering from past traumas, which most of us have. And if you support the work that I'm doing here, please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. It makes a big difference, and we'll get into the topic. So about 4 years ago now, I was working with a client who happened to be an EMDR therapist as well. And we were working on some issues that had come up in her marriage, which clearly connected to some childhood issues that she had been through. And she moved a little too far away to keep coming to see me in person. And we decided to try to do the EMDR online. And I felt very comfortable giving it a try because she was very high functioning. She was an EMDR therapist herself. She understood the process very well, and we had a very good therapeutic relationship. So we began to do EMDR online, and we would use a computer-generated light bar. And she also had her own set of tappers, and she had her own light bar, so we could also use those. And pretty much we kept working with the EMDR the same way we always had, and it worked great. So from there, I ended up experimenting and using it with more and more clients who, for whatever reason, couldn't make it into the office or lived a little bit too far away. And I found that EMDR online was just as effective as it is in person. So the quick answer to the question, does EMDR work online, is yes, definitely. And in the rest of this video, I'm going to share 3 things. One of those is some caveats to that answer. 2, an answer to the question that I've been getting a lot recently, which is, can I do EMDR on myself? And 3 is a very interesting resource that I have come across that I think will be of use to you, whether you're an EMDR therapist or somebody who's interested in using EMDR for yourself and on yourself. And then I also am going to share with you a free resource that is very effective in transforming your negative core beliefs if you've been through trauma. So stay tuned to the end. Now, something to keep in mind with EMDR is that it is actually a comprehensive theory of psychotherapy, and it is based in a theory of how we form memories and how memory nodes connect, so that if we have a situation which triggers a negative thought about ourselves, some very excessive physiological response to the event, that can become a memory node that gets re-triggered throughout life. So EMDR really is not just the bilateral stimulation that gets a lot of popularity. Everybody thinks of EMDR as either watching the therapist's fingers or watching the light bar or the tappers, and that's an important component of it. And that is one of the things that differentiates it from other types of psychotherapy, but it's not the only thing that differentiates it. And I talk more about that in my video, How Does EMDR Work?, which I will link here. And then I also have a video which explains how the brain processes trauma and why it's necessary to go through traumatic memories to process them and recover, and I will link that video right here. So online, in making this transition to online EMDR, I realized that the key components of successful therapy are the same, whether it is an online relationship or in-person relationship, and the relationship with the therapist is key. So having a trusting relationship with your therapist is very important. So another component that is super important with EMDR, whether you're doing it online or in person, is to be invested in the process and help direct it yourself. EMDR therapy overall is a little bit more structured than some kind of free-flowing psychotherapy techniques. So the therapist will be guiding you through a process, yet it's also important for the client to be invested in that process and to keep things on track. With EMDR, there might be a session or two where you feel like, I need a break, I just need to sort of talk about what's going on. But basically, EMDR works best if you're like, okay, this is the target, this is what I want to be working on, and we're going to focus on that today. And this is what I felt about that issue during the course of this week, and then we get right back into it. So it's very targeted, and it's targeted towards those things that are causing you problems in your life now. And then we go to the root of that problem so we can clear it out. We're not going back in time to rehash things for no reason. We are only going back in time to process things that need to be cleared out, healed, and processed because of the current day issue. So staying on target is a great thing to do if you want your EMDR process to be, let's say, efficient. And psychotherapy is not always efficient. It's truly not. It needs a little bit of meandering. It needs a little bit of twists and turns. But as the client, you have a large role in keeping the process on track. So 2 key components to think about whether you're considering doing EMDR online with a therapist, doing EMDR online by yourself, or if you're the therapist, choosing which clients to do active EMDR processing with. And the 2 components, I would say, are emotional regulation and overall functioning. So if you're listening to me and you don't know what emotional regulation is, I do have a video that you can check out right here. But assessing your own ability to regulate your emotions is important. And as a therapist, it's one thing that in being trained in EMDR, we are trained to assess a client's emotional regulation. And if the client is incredibly dysregulated, really has a hard time managing their emotions, can really cycle through or hit incredible lows, suicidal thoughts, that type of thing, rather than doing traumatic memory processing and the active processing portion of EMDR, we will do a lot of resourcing. We will do strengthening of resources, and you might need to work on that with a client for a year, maybe more. It really depends on the person's background. And part of this points to complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And again, I have a different video on that. These topics are so complex, it's impossible to sort of cover in one video. So that's why I'm giving you a few other resources here. But for somebody who has complex post-traumatic stress disorder, the process EMDR, whether you're online or in person, will be slow. And so then let me come to that question that I've been getting a lot. Can I do EMDR on myself? And what I would like to say to that is sort of like, yes, in certain situations. And in certain situations, I really think it helps to work with somebody who's more of a guide. We are often traumatized in relationship, and healing is helpful in relationship. Yet, if you've done a fair amount of work on yourself, if you've processed a lot of things, and you just want an EMDR tool that can help you self-process current day events when you've already processed the core traumas, then I've recently discovered a really wonderful resource called Virtual EMDR, and I will put a link down below, and I will talk about this resource more in upcoming weeks. But Virtual EMDR is a website and a membership site that you can join, and you can utilize. It walks you through the basic EMDR questions to target what's upsetting to you, and then it has a light bar function and a sound function that you can utilize to process the event, and then it sort of checks in. And this is also a tool that EMDR therapists can use when working actively with a client. So it's worth checking out whether you're interested in using EMDR on your own for yourself, or if you're a therapist who works with clients, check this out. It might be a way for your client to continue with some processing in between sessions and help to lessen the time that they need to be in treatment. And the other thing about the Virtual EMDR company is that their goal is very aligned with mine, which is to be bringing these types of tools and resources to help more and more people worldwide. So check that out. I have a link below in the notes to this video. And then another resource I have that I'd like to offer you for free is I have a PDF called Transform Your Negative Core Beliefs. And it gives you 3 techniques to transform your negative core beliefs, because with trauma and difficult childhood circumstances, one of the problems, one of the real things that is actually in the post-traumatic stress disorder definition, is that trauma changes how we view ourselves and often how we view the world. And that's the most long-lasting, terrible impact of trauma, is that it causes us to have a negative view of ourself and our relationship to the world. So I will include the link. I'll show you here the PDF, Transform Your Negative Core Beliefs, and the link to that will be below. And again, subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about online EMDR. Take care.